vMotion process log walkthrough. When a virtual machine migration is started, the vCenter server instance will execute a so-called long-running migration task to process the migration, and a migration specification is created that contains the configuration of the virtual machine, virtual hardware, VM option, etc. Source ESXi host, destination ESXi host, vMotion network details. The migration specification is shared with the source and destination ESXi host by vCenter server instance, making sure that all necessary information is exchanged to start the migration process. The vCenter server communicates with ESXi host using the VPXD that calls out the VPXA, which is running on the ESXi host. VPXA listens to message from VPXD. It receives the migration specs and passes that on to the VMX process via hostd. The hostd maintains host-specific information and access for management, including virtual machine telemetry like the VM state. When migration is started, hostd puts the virtual machine in an intermediate state so that the virtual machine's configuration cannot be changed during the migration. The virtual machine monitor VMM process is in charge of managing the virtual machine memory and transfers virtual machine storage and network I/O requests to the VM kernel. The virtual machine extension VMX process runs in the VM kernel and is responsible for handling I/O to the devices that are not critical to performance. Note that VMM is only used at the source ESXi hosts during the migration because that is where the active memory of the virtual machine resides. After this is done, the VM kernel migrate module on the source ESXi host will open socket on the vMotion enabled network to set up communication with the destination ESXi host. The vMotion process completes in 12 states. You can get all the states and their related tasks by analyzing the VPXD, VM kernel, and virtual machine log or VMware.log. From the state 0 through state 1, vCenter server performs checks that include source and destination ESXi host configuration and networking requirements for vMotion. At this state, if you analyze the VPXD log on the vCenter server instance, you will notice that the vCenter server is starting the migration process from the source to destination with an unique operation ID. Furthermore, the VM kernel logs of the ESXi host shows that the ESXi is receiving migration event. In addition to that, the virtual machine log, which is vmware.log, shows that VMX receives migration request with the required details. Apart from that, the network MTU and network functionality checks are performed in this state. No migration is performed yet. VMX receives the migrate to message and transition to the state 0 to state 1. State 1 to state 2. In this state, VMX receives a migration start message and prepare the VM for the vMotion. Virtual machine moves to state 2. At this state, if you look at the VM kernel log of the source and the destination ESXi servers, you will notice that the network connection is started between the both ESXi servers. In stage 3, pre-copy starts from the source ESXi host to destination ESXi host, and vCenter server transfer the log to the destination VMX file. In stage 4, pre-copy completes. The VMware log of the source ESXi host shows sent all modified pages to destination, and the destination ESXi host log shows that the paging is done. If you look at virtual machine log, you will notice VM is starting to stun and waiting 100 seconds for go or no-go message. Stage 5. At this stage, the checkpoint saving is done and waiting for acknowledgement from the destination that the VMX is started. Until the acknowledgement is received, the migration may still fail back to the source. Migration is now starting up the destination VM. On stage 6, migration succeeds or fails. On success, the migration process shut down the source VM and do the cleanup. On failure, the VM will continue run and be ready for the next migration operation. The VM kernel log of source ESXi host shows that the migration is ended, and the destination ESXi host VM kernel log shows that the handshake is successful. Stage 7. At this stage, the VM is powered off at the source and the destination host has the VMX powered on and the network has resumed the traffic. The VM has now new VMware.log for the new instance and the VMX is transferred. Now the cleanup process takes place. I would like to highlight that the state 0 to state 6 is from the source host perspective. Let's review the logs from the destination host perspective. If you look at the log from the destination host perspective, you will see that the states start from 0 to 8. In state 0 to 8, VMX receives migration from message and get ready to receive the VM. If you look at the destination VM's VMware.log, you will notice that VMX receive migrate from message. Similarly, the destination VM kernel log shows that VMware getting started and files are getting created. Stage 9. In stage 9, the VMX is ready and waiting for source to send VM data. VM kernel log shows migration start received. State 10. In this state, the memory and the checkpoint data is being copied to the destination host. Next, in state 11, the data copying is completed and checkpoint is restored. Stage 12. In stage 12, migration succeeds or fails. On success, the VMX process runs migrated VM. After a state passes, VMX is ready for the next migration operation. On failure, VM will power down and cleanup is done. The VMware log of the destination ESXi host shows that the migration is ended. Stage 12 to 0. No migration is in progress. Virtual machine log shows transition from state 12 to 0. That means vMotion is completed and VM is transitioning to its default state. You can see the vMotion summary report in VM kernel log.